What's up? What's up, man? We in the build, man. This is My Muscle Mastery Podcast. I am Coach Bay.
This is Queen I.
And y'all know what it is, man. We in the building, man. This is actually part two. We gonna break down type 2 diabetes, man. This is diabetes decoded. I hope you tuned in for part one, man. It was crazy. It was crazy, man. I broke a lot of things down, man. We learned a lot of things, but we are on a mission to get to the last series, man, where it gets crazy. I'm talking about what we learned, man, and what I'm teaching is incredible. If you have diabetes, if you know someone with diabetes, if anyone in your family, any of your friends, yourself, I am telling you that there is opportunity out there with action by being active to rid yourself of many of the devices, the medicines. Get away from the insulin, get away from the pills. You say, wow, that's not possible, Coach, but it is. But it is. And believe me, you can go talk to your doctor, your physician, and if they're honest with you, if they're honest about what the possibilities are for you, then they will tell you, man, that by being active, by a strict diet, we can run a 3 month opportunistic situation, man, and watch how you develop over that time. But we'll get into that. We'll get into that, man. It is Decode Diabetes. It is demystifying the lies, man. It is breaking things down and letting individuals know that there is a way away from the finger sticks, man. There is a way away from the medicine simply by being active, right? So in part one, what we learned, man, and real quick, just a real quick run through what we learned about type 1. What we learned about type 1 diabetes was uh, it's an autoimmune condition where the body mistakenly destroys its own insulin producing cells. There are no keys, right? And we're not going to go all the way back through it. And I'll tell you this. I'll start from here. Your body is running an energy crisis, but it is completely fixable. That's one of the things I said last week, and that's one of the things I meant. That's part of this lesson. Your body is running an energy crisis, being diabetes, but it is completely fixable. Diabetes is fundamentally a breakdown in how the body transforms food into energy. Under normal circumstances, the pancreas releases insulin, a biological key to let glucose, sugar, into the cells. So we know glucose being sugar, right? We also know from last week that beta cells are located in the pancreas, and their sole job is to develop insulin, right? We know that the T cells, uh, which are equated with antivirus. We know that our T cells from our immune system, we know our T cells attack viruses. We know that, right? We know they rid us of viruses. But in a type 1 diabetic, the communication is all broke down. Those soldiers, which are the T cells that work so hard in our body, get orders that are miscommunicated. They attack the beta cells, that is the insulin, right? And there is nothing to fix it, right? So that's a type 1 diabetic, man, and that's just kind of going over what we taught last week. The core players were the insulin system. We know that the insulin system is the body security force. We know the immune system. I'm sorry, the immune system. We know that the immune system is the body security force. That's what I just spoke about. The immune system being one that develops the T cells that protects the body, fights viruses, things of that nature, right? Well, those soldiers, when they go around the body, right, and fight a virus, they're still active, they're ready, and what they do is they attack the beta cells, right? The beta cells that develop insulin. So this is the problem with the type 1 diabetic. And we learned in type 1 that particular individuals with particular genes are more affected than others. And we've talked briefly about who those people are, but look around you. So we'll talk more about that. That was type 1. We're gonna get into type 2 though. We're gonna get into type 2 diabetes. And it really doesn't get any less serious. We'll go through some of the definitions. I don't want to leave you guys as far as not knowing any definitions. But with type 2 diabetes, in type 2 diabetes, the body produces insulin, but the cells become insulin resistant. Right now, we're talking about a type 2 diabetic, right? The cells become insulin resistant and ignore its signals. This happens because the molecular locks, the molecular locks on your cells stop responding to the insulin key. The molecular, yeah, I already know, words that, probably, man, before all this, one wouldn't have even worried about pronouncing before the certifications, before the personal trainer. Before I became, I was always militant. I was always involved in what was happening. But before I became wise enough to understand that health is number one. Without your health, you are nothing. Right. So for each and every soldier out there, from the Black nation, the white nation, Hispanic, and Asian, get your health together, man. Because just simply by being active 3 times a week for an hour or less, of a mild to strenuous workout, man, can extend your life. So when we come back from break, man, we're going to get into type 2 diabetes, man. This is Decoding Diabetes. This is My Muscle Mastery Podcast. I'm Coach Bay, man, and we're going to break this down. And when this is over, you're going to have a new insight, man. You're going to have a new light, on diabetes, man. You're going to look at it a different way, and my hope is that you choose to fight it a different way. You choose to deal with it a different way. Welcome to My Muscle Mastery, man. Let's take a break. So, what is type 2 diabetes, man? Let's run over it again. In type 2 diabetes, different from type 1 diabetes, right? The body produces insulin, but the cells become insulin resistant and ignore its signals. This happens because the molecular locks on your cells stop responding to the insulin key. So, here is X. I'm going to break that down. I know you like, let's break that down. Let's go into it. Overload of cell receptors, right? The normal process inside insulin, insulin binds the receptors on the outside of a cell to open a gate for sugar glucose to insulin, right? To enter, I'm sorry. Insulin binds the receptors on the outside of a cell to open a gate for sugar glucose to enter and to be used for energy. Right? This is why with the type 1, there was an energy crisis, right? So we understand with the type 2 that we're dealing with overloaded cell receptors, right? This is where the problem comes in at, right? We understand that type 2 diabetic, the body produces insulin, but the cells become insulin resistant, right? And the reason that cells so often become insulin resistant or don't respond to the signals that are being sent to it is because of overloaded cell receptors, right? They get burned out, just like a person. They get burned out, they go bad, right? So in a normal process, insulin binds to the receptors, that we know now are overloaded, right? So we know that they're overloaded. We know that they're not getting their signal, right? We're breaking down type 2 diabetes, right? So insulin binds to those receptors to let glucose in to enter to be used for energy, right? The breakdown. When there is a constant surplus of glucose, right? Now we're getting into these overloaded cell receptors. When there is a constant surplus of glucose and insulin in the blood, the cell receptors get overwhelmed, right? When there's an excess of glucose and sugar in the blood, the cell receptors get overwhelmed. It's too much for them, right? In a normal, healthy body, not a body that is overweight in an active body, right? Your fight is greater. But in this particular case, right, when there is a constant surplus of glucose and insulin in the blood, the cell receptors get overwhelmed, right? So over time, they degrade, decrease in number, right? Or simply stop responding efficiently to the signal, right? And that's a problem because there's there's an overload of glucose and sugar in the cells, and it, because of the breakage, the breakdown, the cell receptors get overwhelmed. Over time, they degrade, decrease in numbers, or simply stop responding efficiently to the signal. So, one thing about the overload of glucose and sugar in the cells, right? A particular way, being inactive, understand that muscle, and I'm gonna give you a jewel here. Understand that muscle mass is the biggest tank for glucose, right? It is a tank, it is a safe that stores glucose more than any other thing in the body. Muscle mass stores glucose, right? The more you slim the fat, the more muscle mass, right? You store glucose. Now we walking into getting away from medicine. Follow me now. Follow me now when I talk about the activity, about being active. Muscle mass is a storage for glucose. It is the biggest storage in the body. Understand that. Understand that if you grow that muscle mass, if you cut that fat from around the body, right? Stay in your weight, what happens? Your body stores that glucose even in a type 2 diabetic. So we're talking about how to get it. Let's go. Let's get back here. We don't want to get ahead of ourselves. Right? So the high intracellular fat, lipotoxicity. We breaking this down. This is the exact why and how this resistance happens. The resistance, the type 2, the body produces insulin, but cells become insulin resistant. We're breaking down why and how the resistance happens. We know overloaded cell receptors. That's one, right? So high intercellular fat, lipotoxicity, the breakdown. When a person has excess fat, I just talked about this, gave you a jewel on it, advanced you on it, but we'll talk about it later in 3. When a person has excess body fat, tiny fat droplets, liplets, begin to build up inside muscle and liver cells where they do not belong. Right? Now I'm going to repeat that. When a person has excess body fat, tiny fat droplets known as liplets begin to build up inside muscle and liver cells where they do not belong. This is when a person has excess body fat. These lipids get to building up inside cells, man, liver cells and muscle cells where they don't belong. Right? So again, we're talking about these cells. We're talking about the overloading of these cells, right? We're talking about the insulin resistance and why the insulin becomes resistant, right? So when you get overweight, these lipids, right, droplets begin to build up inside the muscle and liver cells where they do not belong. I'm talking to any nationality, but particularly the Black nation who suffers disproportionately, right? Come on now, follow me now. So the impact, these internal fat accumulation products physically block the internal chemical signaling pathway. So this fat, these lipids that's building up in these cells, man, this buildup of sugar, of glucose, it's literally blocking, right, the impact. The accumulation products physically block the internal chemical signaling pathway. So the signal can't even get down to where it needs to go. This is one of the reasons because of the fat. I'm talking to you. I'm being real with you because of the fat. The overload of fat in the cells, man, this is the breakdown, right? The insulin can't, the signaling, it can't even get through. We have an excess of glucose, an excess of sugar, right? Glucose being sugar. So we're on our way to becoming diabetic. Here comes the precursors. right? Because it's things that beforehand we're not doing correctly, right? We're overeating. We're talking about fat. We're talking about lipids. We're overeating. We're not active. Okay, so here come the precursors, right? We're building up to type 2 diabetes. I'm gonna break this down, man, and we're gonna take a quick break, right? Chronic inflammation. Chronic inflammation, right? The breakdown, enlarged fat tissue. Chronic inflammation. So this is chronic inflammation, right? So we can talk about swelling, blockage, whatever, right? This is inflammation, right? Becomes inflamed, it becomes blocked, swollen, right? So chronic inflammation, enlarged fat tissue, especially visceral fat around internal organs, releases inflammatory chemicals called cytokines, right? So enlarged fat tissue. So we got all this fat in the cells. It's blocking it's overloading the cell receptors. The sugar, all this is on because we're not eating right. We inactive. This is our life. This is what's going on in our body, right? So the enlarged fat from the chronic inflammation, especially visceral fat around internal organs, releases inflammatory chemicals called cytokines. Right? And the impact of that is these inflammatory molecules travel through the bloodstream and actively interfere with insulin signaling. Actively interferes with insulin signaling, making cells across the entire body much less receptive to insulin, right? So understand what I'm telling you about being overweight, man. Understand what I'm telling you about not eating right. Understand what it's causing in your body, man. This is Coach Bay. This is Queen Nine. There's no lies being told here. I'm not making this shit up. This is years of study, many of certifications, man. This is a love and compassion for humanity who suffers greatly from these diseases, right? I don't get paid for this. This is love. Do we seek that? Yeah. What I tell you some episodes back that the servant is worthy of his hire. You heard me talk about it last episode. But what I'm telling you about this episode in Decoding Diabetes is that fat not eating right, man, and not being active is leading you to these dooms. These dooms, right? We got one more on that list, man. I'm gonna take a break though. We got one more on that list, man. We decoding diabetes over here, man. Mind muscle mastery. So what we talking about, man? We decoding diabetes. We know that in the type 2 diabetic, the body produces insulin, but the cells become insulin resistant and ignore the signals, right? This is what we know, right? And we know that they become resistant based off an overloaded cell receptors. Insulin binds to those receptors on the outside of the cell to open the gate for sugar to enter to be used for energy. The breakdown, when there is a consistent surplus of energy and insulin in the blood, the cell receptors get overwhelmed. Over time, they degrade, decrease in numbers, or simply stop responding efficiently to the signal, right? So this is what we're learning, right? We learned about high intracellular fat lipotoxicity, the breakdown. When a person has excess body fat, tiny fat droplets, lipids begin to build up in the muscle and liver cells where they do not belong. We know that the impact of this is these internal fat accumulation products physically block the internal chemical signaling pathway. Even if insulin binds to the outside of the cell, the signal to open the glucose gate gets cut off on the inside. Right? So we know that fat, inactivity, overeating, not eating the right things, all this basically is the second thing, because we learned that leads to diabetes, because we learned in the first episode of this, that it also has to do with our genes, right? We also learned that, so it ain't just what we eat, it's also about our genes, right? So we're going to talk about that. We're going to get into that in 3. So we just talked about chronic inflammation, the breakdown, enlarged fat tissue. Again, we talked about, this is about overeating. It's blocking the cells, right? The overloaded cell receptors. The insulin can't get the signal. The pancreas, it can't get the signal, right? We need to be eating right? So on this page, the last one is genetic. Uh-oh. What'd I just say? Didn't I just say something about genetics? Genetic predisposition. Wow. Right? That is on the fourth floor of this paperwork that I'm reading to you, right? We know that overloaded cell receptors is a cause, one of the main causes of the type 2 diabetes, because that is the thing. That is how it occurs. That's how type 2 diabetes occurs. The cells become insulin resistant. Right? We know that the cells become insulin resistant, not letting glucose in, not letting sugar in to be used for energy. We know that when the glucose can't get in to be used for energy, we know that it builds up. There's a surplus of glucose and sugar in the blood. Right? And over time, the cells just get burnt out from that overload of sugar and glucose, and they degrade. They just stop working. When a person has excess body fat, lipids, droplets build up into the muscles and liver cells where they do not belong. Fat accumulation physically blocks the internal signaling pathway. This is literally being overweight. This is literally eating the wrong foods. Chronic inflammation, that same enlarged fat. But that last thing, what? Let's get into that. Genetic predisposition. Genetics dictate how well your cellular plumbing works. But I just dropped a jewel on you. Your mind should ding. Man, is that why we can't eat steak? Is that why beef for the black nation is to be medium rare? Is that, the breakdown? Genetics dictate how well your cellular plumbing works, and obviously ours don't work that well, right? So we have to be aware, right? We have to be educated. We have to be enlightened that for us, what we eat is detrimental. It is utterly important what we eat to stay healthy, right? The genetic predisposition. Genetics dictate how well your cellular plumbing works. The impact. Some people inherit genes that naturally make their cellular insulin receptors less efficient or make their bodies more prone to developing internal cellular stress under normal conditions, right? And these are just different genetic makeups. Because the cells ignore insulin, glucose builds up in the bloodstream. This is the vicious cycle. Right, this is the vicious cycle of the type 2, the process of the body for the type 2 diabetes, the type 2 diabetic. Because the cells ignore the insulin, glucose builds up in the bloodstream. The pancreas senses this high blood sugar and panics, pumping out even more insulin to force the cells to listen, right? The pancreas senses this high blood sugar, right? The buildup in the cells, the overbuild, the overload in the cells. The pancreas senses all that sugar being built up in blood, and it panics, pumping out even more insulin to force the cells to listen. This temporary fix works for a while, but the constantly high insulin levels eventually make the cells even more resistant, worsening the condition over time. Right? And over time, what are we doing? We become type 2 diabetic. And what I just broke down for you, man, and what I believe and what I feel was one of the most efficient of ways was type 2 diabetes. In the first session, we broke down type 1. In episode 8, if you haven't heard it, go get it. Go listen to it wherever you get your podcast. Episode 9 was tonight. It's a 3-part series, and I just broke down type 2, quite effectively. And the bottom line is, in the next session, I'll say some shit that'll scare you in the last episode, the last of this shit. But you should have learned a lot about, man, what you can do and what you can't do, and demystify the lies about diabetes. So that was type 2, man. You know what I mean? Again, like I told you last time, go tell your grandmas, man, tell your uncle, tell your cousin. You know, because we breaking down demystifying diabetes over here, man. We be right back. So we in the building, we back, and don't listen, man. Don't y'all be thinking, man, that the queen, man, is over there. Don't want to be here or something, man. The queen, man, is going through some back pain, man. Uh, you know,
Struggling over here.
you know, she's going through it, man, and but we're here, and that's the thing about it, man. Back pain or not, we're here. You know, it must be told. The news must be brought. The truth must be spoken, and we're here to do that, man. Uh, So, you know, without further ado, man, I'm gonna let the queen step in, man, and talk about some of the news, some of the tea. Man, it's getting it's crazy out there, man. I'm talking about from Carmelo to Nolan, from Lindsey, man. Shout out, man, to Lindsey's family, man. Rest in peace, Lindsey Graham, man. Senator, North Carolina. Had a lot of respect for Lindsey, man. Shout out to Lindsey, man. If you don't know his story, we may talk about it one day on the podcast. But shout out to Lindsey's sister as well, man, and shout out to Lindsey's family.
All right, y'all. So this little tidbit is going to be about the Nolan Wells case. As many of you know, Nolan Wells was the young man that was found deceased in Heron, if I'm pronouncing Mississippi. So new details show that lawsuit notices and evidence preservations has been sent out to multiple people and multiple companies. The attorney representing the Wells family estate has officially issued formal legal notices to multiple individuals indicating that a civil lawsuit is reasonably anticipated. Now, in these letters, it mandates the recipients immediately suspend any automatic deletion functions and preserve all potential electronic devices across nearly 20 categories, including communications, photos, and location history. Also, a, a little tidbit that surprised me, one such notice was served to Ashley Cole. Ashley Cole is a local Mississippi judge. This local Mississippi judge is also the mother of Warren Hudson.
Hmm?
Yes.
Now, what kind of weird shit was that? You want to run that past us again?
Yes. One such notice was served to Ashley Cole, a local judge in Mississippi whose son is Warren Hudson.
And who was Warren Hudson?
Warren Hudson is one of the 8 individuals that were on
The
this
boat.
boat.
Okay, so one of the boys that was on the boat, mother, is a judge.
Yes, it's a Mississippi
And this is the judge that's involved in this case.
I'm not sure if this judge is technically involved in the case, but she was served one of the notices to
stand down,
to suspend any automatic deletion functions and preserve all potential evidence or electronic evidence.
Oh.
This is because the
So don't
family
throw shit in the trash.
don't
We
delete
coming
nothing.
to get that.
You don't delete nothing. Don't try to erase, unsubscribe. None of that.
None of that. We coming to get that. And
Yeah.
it's I don't know what's going on down there, man. I don't know what's going on down there in Mississippi with this case. It's crazy now that you got the video that came out, you got the tape that came out. One don't match the other. The video don't show Nolan on the boat unless it's altered. The tape say they talking about Nolan on the boat. You know, his head is bashed in the back. The police don't want to release the rest of the evidence. So what is going on? What are we left to think? You know, it said that if the police release the rest of the evidence, we would know what's going on. So why they ain't releasing it? You know, now the fact that this boy's mother's a judge, that's just, a boy on the boat, mama was the judge. But if she's involved in any shape, form, or fashion in this case, then of course she needs to recuse herself and she needs to make sure that she preserves all evidence. You know.
Now, there are 5 extensive subpoenas that Nolan's mother has initiated. That also includes the suspending of any automatic deletion functions and preserving all potential electronic evidence. Now, these 5 tech giants, of course, are Meta, TikTok, Snap, WhatsApp, and Life 360.
What's up, Matter?
Now, the court order demands that the company hand over all direct messages, communication logs, photos, videos, and GPS location history tied to Nolan's accounts within 21 days. Now, the family has already stated that no photos or videos were on either of his Snapchat accounts, which seems to be fishy to them because he had photos on there. Now about this
So
audio,
you said the Snapchat and shit was deleted.
had no photos or videos on either of his accounts, sparking severe concerns that crucial digital evidence was deleted. Now, according to the audio, there was a emergency call made July 4th, 4 p.m. to the private towing company Pt.2. Audio engineers have cleared up the background dialogue from the call using advanced dialogue editing. Now, the independent audio reviews, you can hear panicking voices in the background saying, "Is he dead? Wake up," and uttering Nolan's name. So, of course, the family wants to know if they're telling him to wake up and asking, "Is he dead?" and this call was at 4 o'clock, then he was definitely on that boat at 4:30.
Unless they threw him off.
Unless he was thrown off. There are
So
also.
when do we know when the tape that's out? What time was the tape?
The audio tape?
The video tape. Because they saying I know I seen live TMZ yesterday and they were saying that that the tape was made basically immediately up after being told, while being told. So they're saying immediately when the tow began, because they had the tow service come because the boat was sinking. Immediately when the tow began is when the video started. So they're saying that, and I'm not saying that TMZ specifically saying it. They're reporting the same way we're reporting. They're trying to figure it out like we're trying to figure it out. Shout out over there to Harry, man, at TMZ. That the tape started soon as the tow began. So it couldn't have been him. He couldn't have been on the boat because when the tape started.
Yeah, the tape roughly. They say this tape roughly started around 4:30
Right.
of the boat and the friend group. However, the 7 people that were on the boat, Nolan was absent from that frame. So
Which
at
I've seen the video.
4:30, when that video was taken, Nolan was not on that boat or wasn't in the frame of the picture.
Right.
But at
And
4
I
o'clock,
promise, I think I'll be looking at that picture too, and right down in the corner by that boy's foot, I'll be seeing a black spot. I'll be like, what is that?
now between 4 o'clock when that call was made, and you can hear them saying, "Is he dead? Nolan, wake up," to roughly 30 minutes later, him not being seen on the boat. Was he laid down in the boat? Dead? Did they throw him over because he was dead?
Did y'all kill Nolan, man?
Then there's also witnesses that indicate
They saw
Nolan,
Nolan on the island after that time.
oh, as late as 6 o'clock.
So I mean, one of the things that I already see we finna do. This is gotten worldwide coverage as it should. We're going to dedicate a podcast. If that's all right, Quindy, is that something you want to do?
Fine.
Okay, so we're going to investigate this entire thing from top to bottom. Bring you the ins and outs. We're going to stay on it, just like we stay on the Camelo case, just like we stay on any other case.
Now, one last thing. There's another piece to this timeline. So you have the call being made at 4.
Right.
The video at 4:30. Witnesses saying they seen him as late as 6 o'clock. But Nolan's mother was not informed that he was missing until 11 p.m.
I don't know, man. You know, that's crazy if he wasn't on the boat with them when he left. Well, I mean, if he wasn't on the boat with them when he left, and now I'm playing devil's advocate, if he wasn't on the boat with them when they left, he stayed with the girl, as they say, even though the girl says she was only with Nolan for a couple minutes. So, you know,
And
so she's on the.
why would he leave his phone, his keys, and his wallet and stay on that island with no way home?
Right, with a girl who says that she was only with him for a short time. You know, so obviously, man, you know, it don't take a rocket scientist to understand that some things don't add up. You know, and I'm gonna tell you something like this. I'm gonna tell you like this. Muscle mind, you know, on my muscle mastery, man. You know, it's for the culture, man. It's for the people. We not letting shit slide, and nor should the culture. You know, you should be tired, man, of having nothing. You should be tired of knowing nothing. When I say that, you should be tired of the miseducation. You know, right now you should be sick and pissed off about the deletion and the taking of books out of schools. You should be pissed off about slave exhibits being taken down. You should be pissed off about the rights being erased. You know, this ain't, you know, I call on every king and queen to get on anything, whether it's a podcast, a microphone, a bike, and run and tell the story. Go pedal around and tell the people that we may be under attack. That we, as a matter of fact, we are under attack. Tell the people, man. Tell the people that we are under attack. Awesome. Understand? Go tell the people that, man. You know, tell the people to wake up, man. You know, tell the people, man, that elections matter. Tell the people that we got an administration that's in power, man, that may be trying to enslave us. Tell the people about the Hispanics, man, who have been shot in their faces, the white people that have been shot in their faces and heads. Tell them about the Hispanics being chased around, the people being sent to other countries they've never even seen. Tell them about what's going on right now. Tell the truth. And if you ain't willing to fight for what's going on right now, get out the way. But you got leaders that's going to lead, man, like such as Coach Bay. So if you're not a part of the Mind Muscle Mastery podcast, you need to become a part of it. Whatever is going on with Nolan Wells, whatever is going on, we will find out. It all comes out in the wars. And understand we ain't letting shit slide. All that passive is done. I'm calling on the rest of the kings. All that passiveness is done. Right here, my specialty is educating on the state of black health, the state of health in America. Dealing with the black nation, emphasis, the white nation, Asian, Hispanic. And not in that specific order. But the black nation is first. In that order. As far as health concerns are concerned, and as far as my concern for those health concerns. Enough of this. Enough of forgetting who you are. Enough of not exercising your strength and knowledge. Enough of wasting time in life. I just decoded diabetes. If you're suffering from that disease, get with me. We just had a family, man, a white family be murdered. Madness out here, man. Madness. The Queen reported on a black family a couple of weeks back where the youth in the family were killing the family. The kids of the family were killing the family.
A white woman, her husband killed them because she went online and said he was having an affair.
Man, and when did you hear the Queen say that again, Queen?
He killed her and his 6 children because she went on Facebook and outed him for having an affair.
So madness, man. 6 his kids, his wife, madness. Madness, man. For those out there, man, suffering from our suffering addicts, man, if you think it's bad, man, it could get worse. There are ways out. There is a way out of that hell. For my people suffering behind bars, man, get something right in there, man, and make plans in there, prepared to get out of there. If you don't make a plan, man, you plan to fail. But there is life after that. For the recovering addict, there is life after that. I've got tapes on YouTube. Go research them, where I'm speaking directly to you, to my youth out there. African nation, European nation, Hispanic. Make your next decision be your best decision. Because if it's not, man, if your next decision is a wrong decision, it may be your last decision. This is Mind Muscle Mastery Podcast, man. I am Coach Bay. Queen is doing her work, man. We love y'all, man. Just as God loves us. This is episode 9, man, of Decoding Diabetes. I broke down Type 2. I hope that you followed, man. Follow the podcast. Much more to come. Much more to come, man. We got an office right to the right of me being redone. We'll be in there soon where the posters are up and the lights are up and everything. This is real deal. Just as what is going on right now in the world is real deal. All that woke shit, fuck that. If you're not woke, you sleep. You better understand that. In the law of opposites, if you're not woke, you sleep. And of course, a bunch of criminal motherfuckers want you walking around sleep. You don't pay attention to what they do. You don't call them out. You don't address their behavior. Well, as a tax-paying citizen, as an American, you have every damn right to address their behavior. And if you're afraid to do it, we're going to do it for you every week and 3 times a week. This is Mind Muscle Mastery, man. We love you. We'll catch you in a couple days, man. It'll be third part. Third part, baby. Episode 10. Be a celebration. Gonna break it down. See you next time.